Okay, Samuel, you want to say something? Samuel, go ahead. Hello, Samuel, go ahead, please. Hello, Samuel, we are listening to you. Go ahead. Lawal, you can go. Where is Lawal? Lawal, you can go ahead. Okay, I didn't allow. Samuel, go ahead.
Okay, no, I was just trying to find out. Yeah. You said some was submitted without connection string. Was it this last week or previous assessment? I thought this one was a form.
Yeah. This last one. All right. For the assignment, sorry for that break. For the assignment, the last assignment I gave was on Google form, but that's because we have a pending assignment, which is the week 6, I think so, for the week 6 assignment, where I asked everybody to pick the number, and based on your number, you have to answer the particular question for that particular number. So that's the one that requires you submit a connection string. And also that's the reason why I was talking about validation. You don't do anything on the back end without validation, which is why I'm going to teach validation today the way it should be. Like I said, we are no longer beginners. So whatever I'm teaching you now, I'm teaching you the way it should be. There will be no time to explain it from beginner's perspective again, the way it should be. Of course, if you see the code, you understand what it is doing. So Lawal, go ahead. You wanted to say something before. Hello, Lawal, can you hear me? Hello, Lawal, are you there? Okay, who else? Somebody was raising their hand. Ekon, go ahead. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you.
All right. Ekong, your hands were up. Go ahead. Where is Ekong? Yes, go ahead. Okay. I guess he doesn't want to say. You're not saying anything. Any other person? Fine. So let's continue. Now, this issue, Christopher, sorry, this issue is either you are trying to install VS Code and it's not working. Okay. What I would like to know the operating system you are using, the Windows, is it 10 or 7, 8? I would like to know, Christopher, I'd like to know the Windows you are using. And so for the test driller, wait, what's the question? Product keys and they get you to pay. Okay, for now, I may not be able to cover the text driller, but if we have a time, I'll also cover that. But let's now the thing is this: your end date has been set. Like the date this program will end has been set. And apart from that, I will give you a project that you work on for 1 week, meaning you have to work on it for 1 week on your own. And if you need daily classes, like every day in the evening, we'll just put up a class and you ask your question. I will not be teaching. You ask your questions, or maybe if there's no question, we end it for that day. That if anybody is going to have a question tomorrow, we'll fix another one for tomorrow. So whatever I'm doing now, I'm trying to make sure that you get the whole knowledge that you need, because the end date has been set. So trying to remember a user's password, you get their email first. You make sure that that user exists on your database. Now, if they don't, you tell them that they don't. Now, the next thing is, if they exist, you want to generate a token, that is the access token. Now, before, when you are trying to log in a user, you will generate an access token. Here, you will generate an access token here and send it to the user. But here now, because they are trying to recover their password, you will not send it to the front end. Rather, you will send that token to their email. So what you do is you generate a token, which is the access token, so that when they click on that token, it will take them to the front end. I will not ask them to log in. All right. Windows 10 should work with this. So it depends on how you are installing this. But if VS Code is opening this way, forget about what this error is for now, and just install it again. Just right click and I think it's run as administrator. So right click and run as administrator. Windows 10 should not be having issues with VS Code. Just right click again. For whether you don't uninstall, just right click and run as administrator. Follow the process. You should be fine. You generate access token here. So to generate access token, const access token is equal to await, and we're using JWT, I think. Sorry, what did we use so that I don't use something else for you? Yeah, I'm sure I've taught you about JWT. Yeah, exactly. So JW. So what I would do is just get this from here now. And replace this. So we are trying to generate access token with JWT. Now for the user, it will no longer be user payload now. We are trying to get this user. So what we'll do is we'll create a user payload here. We're creating an object. We say const user payload will be an object. Now this object, we just want to put in their ID and say it is user._ID. You can add in their email if you want, user.email, like this. And then this is the token we had in our process.env, and it is going to expire in 30 minutes. You can reduce this if you want. My screen is too small, sorry. I think this should be better now. I hope I'm still recording. Yeah, I still recording. All right. So again, trying to retrieve a user's password, you get their email first. You find that that user exists on your database. If they don't, you'll return them back. Then you want to create a payload that you will sign their details you want to sign. You want to sign their ID and their email. So you pass in that object called user payload here as the first this is a payload, and then you pass in your token. You should have a token. Now this token is not already made, or will I say predetermined. You can write anything here. You generate random text here. But the thing is this, if you are using this format of generating random text, make sure that you don't change this, you don't tamper with this. The reason is, if you tamper with it, the people who have created the account before, well, I think well, it won't affect you for now. It will not. Yeah, it will not, except you are generating refresh tokens or tokens that are going to last longer. So if your access token here is going to be expiring in 30 days, then you make sure that you don't tamper with the access token within that period. Otherwise, those who have logged in before, they will need to log in again like that. So but that's not an issue. It can always be fixed like that. So when you generate a token, you want to create a URL or your website URL, anyone.
A question: why not that process of env access token? Why not give it a variable? Then you just put it there.
I should put the variable here.
Then you assign it a variable, so you just put it there. I don't know.
This is part of your secret details to sign your tokens. So it should not be seen. Now, if I get what you're saying why not we just put the variable, create a variable here, and assign it that random variables, right?
No. What I mean is that this just maybe a variable equals to process of env the access token. Then you just slot it
Okay,
there.
yeah, sure. You can do that. You can do that. You can do that. So the variable can be called maybe token, and then inside here you cut this one out, then put it here. Yes, you can do that if you want. And then it is the token that you want to put inside here. Yes, you can do this if you want. You can equally
Okay.
you can do this. So the next thing is your website URL will be something like www.youththrive.com / now, because you are appending the access token to it, you're going to be using backticks here, and then you pass in $ and quote, and then put the access token here like this. So now you've created the website URL. Now when they click on this website URL, it will take them to your website. Now the front-end developer will have access to this token, and it will not ask them to log in again. Rather, it will ask them to type in a new password, because the backend has verified them and has generated access token for them. So here you want to send this to their email. We're also going to look at how to send emails too from the backend. We'll cover that too. Yes, you can. You can add your expiry date in your .env file if you want. Yes, you can. Like this can actually be what is it called? Part of your secret token. You can. So if all right, well done. You're doing well. Okay, so here you are sending this email to the user, and like I said, well, I'm also going to show you how to send email to user, but we'll skip that part. And then here you want to return a response with a status code of 200 that it was successful. Then the structure a message that will say successful. So this successful message is just my own. You can use anything as your success message, however you want. Some people use success, some people use successful. So I use successful. You can't tell. And there's no point sending any other thing, because the user will be going to their email. Now the front-end developer will be the one to display a message that they should check their email and click the link on their email for verification and so on and so forth. So this is how to recover the first part. Now I said to recover a password is in two parts. This is the first part where you get their email. Once you get their email, you confirm that they have account with you. Now, if they have account with you, you want to generate access token for them. Now, that access token, you append it to their URL, to the website URL, and then send it to their email. You send it to their email, they will go to their email, click on that URL, it will take them to the website, which is this website here. It will take them to this website. So there on the website, the front-end developer will pick this access token, and once he sees this access token, he will tell them to create a new password. No questions asked again. So that's the first stage. Now the second stage is at that point where they are sending. Okay, we have not. We should export this out. Do I need to? I want to believe by now you already know what I'll do. So this is the function. You should create an endpoint for it. So export it out and then create an endpoint. Now the endpoint is going to be here, and you will call it app.post / forgot password. Forgot password, and you want to bring in that handle forgot password here. After this one, handle forgot password. I saw some persons naming their functions handle this, handle that. It's okay, it's nothing bad, but it's not compulsory that you must name your function handle. You can name it anything. I just choose to name my handle password. So handle forget password. That's what it will do. And I would have tested this for you. I will test it. You see it. You send the email, you find the user, and they return successful. So let's test this and see that it is working. I open Postman, and I think I first need to run the project. Where will I find it? Inside auth. This is the project. So yarn dev. No. It's npm, or let me use yarn. That's npm run dev. I would have used yarn. Yarn works for me. So npm run dev, MongoDB connected, server running on port 5000, and this is it. Forgot password. And if I come to my Postman, which is this, dismiss this, and this is a different project. uThrive is here. So I will create an endpoint post and set it to be localhost forgot password. Make sure that the URL to the endpoint is correct. Sorry. So it's expecting an email. So you change the body, make sure it is on raw and is a raw JSON. So here you set an email. First, I will put an email. Sorry, what am I doing? First, I'll put an email I think exists, example@gmail.com. Let me see. If I send it, it says user not found. So it's possible that this email does not exist on our backend. What I'll do is I'll try getting all the users on our backend. I have example here. Why is it? I think it is the way I type. What's the difference between this example and that example? Let me see. This is capital letter. Let me see. What's the difference? Send this request again. Yeah, okay, capital letter. This is successful. It means it's working, and we are seeing the end. So now the next part of it is when they click on their email, when they click on this URL in their email, it will be taking them to the website. So as a front backend developer, you're expecting them to send you another request to reset that password. And that will be reset password is equal to an async function that accepts the request and the response. So you should be expecting them to send you the password. That is their new password now. Password is coming from the request.body. So now there are two things here. The first thing is, because you generated this access token for them, you will not do this without them sending back the access token. So the front-end developer should be sending you back the access token. Now, why are they sending you back the access token? The reason why they are sending you back the access token is you need to know which user owns this password. You need to know the owner of this password. This password can be owned by anybody. Now, even though you are the one that generated it here, and I told you before, these two functions are not the same. These APIs, they are not the same. If one API did something, the second one will not know what the other API did. So they are not the same thing. Now, this API generated an access token and sent it to their email. If they click on their email, it will take them to this website, and the front-end developer will have access to this access token. Now, when they are sending you this password, it is compulsory that they send along that access token. So it is that access token now that you will use to find who the user is, and you reset their password. That's how it works. So to do that, but let's assume for now we're going to do that. We're going to see how to get the access token, because if that access token shows that they are currently logged in, now if they are not logged in, they cannot reset their password. So, but let's assume for now we are going to find the user with their email, but that is not how it is done. Because you have sent them an access token, the front-end developer should be sending you back that access token. It is with that access token you will know which user is trying to reset their password. But for now, we've not gotten to that part. I will skip that and then use their email. So let's assume that they are sending you email. The reason why I'm using email is because you need to first find who the user is. You cannot reset the password without knowing who the user is. So you find the user, await auth.find1, and find them by their email. So you find them by their email. If no user you want to return, exactly the same. Let me just do it. If not user you want to return,
So why not use try catch?
Oh, sorry. I always forget try catch. I always forget. I will just, let me finish this up. I will put that try catch now. User not found. So I'll put try catch here. I think that was one thing I wanted to explain before. We've reached the part where we should be using try catch, but I was in a hurry. I forgot that. Status code 500.json. Then the structure a message, the error dot message. Okay, you can mute now. All right. All right. So that's try catch. I'll put all of this now inside the try block. Here. And then indent this ones. So this is try catch. This is how we use try catch. The only thing that will be in the catch block is to return the error message, but every other thing will be inside the try block. That's how we use try catch. Okay, when they are sending this thing, they should be sending you the token. No, forgot password and reset password are not the same thing. Forgot password is the API that will take their email, find that the user exists, generate an access token for them, attach it to the website URL, and send it to their email. That is what this forgot API will do. It will send it to their email. Now, when the user opens their email, click on the URL, it will take them to the website. When they are going to the website, because it has access token, it will not ask them to log in again. Because that URL has access token, it will not ask them to log in again. Instead, it will take them direct to the page where they will type in a new password and confirm the password. So when they type a new password and confirm the password, they will then click send. It is that time that this API that will accept the password and change their old password to be the new password they are sending. So the two of them are not the same thing. Now you may choose to name it. No, they're not the same thing. The forgot password part, we use the email, find the user, verify that that is the owner of the account with the email, and then send them an email. Now the reset password will take the new password and update their profile. That's what the reset password would do. So now the critical question
Sorry, is it a sequence after they forgot and the
yes,
next
yes,
set?
the sequence. The first thing is to do the forget password part. That's the first part. You can't go and reset password without an access token. So the backend needs to know that you are forgetting your password. So you click on forgot password. Let me show you. Let's just demo it. I will open a page here, schoolaxis.co. I just opened this page. This is just to demo for you what that is. So I will try to click to sign up. Now this is forgot password. I'll click forgot password. Now I forgot my password. Now it's asking me to type in what? My email. So I will type in my email here and click reset password. Now it has sent me what's it called? An email. Here it's bringing me back. Because it has sent me an email, it's bringing me back here. Now the next thing is, if I go to my mail, I think I can open that mail. If I go to my mail, I think I should see a mail from CareerEX. Okay. I'm not seeing it. Sorry. Is it my internet is taking time? Oh, match. Refresh this. I'm trying to find where it will be in. Okay, it's not in my inbox, or maybe I don't have account to that email, possibly. So I will try and use another email. Possibly I don't have an account to that email, but you see the sequence here is the first time you go, it will ask you to enter only your email. Now this is the part for forgot password. So I will enter this email now and send. And I want to believe if I go to mail, I should see an email. Maybe I don't have an account with this one too. Just trying to see which email I have account with. requested more. My internet is slow. Sometimes the email may not be that fast. I think that's what I'm noticing. The email is not fast, but it will come in. It will come in this format. Let's see, not this one. Let me find it again. Sometimes it may not be fast. So the email is not fast, and I think it has something to do with network, but you will see the email. Now, when you open the email, what site can I use to recover password? What site can I use to recover? Which site can I go to? Where do I have account again? Do I have account on Twitter? Let me go to Twitter, X, actually. I want to see which one will be faster. Yeah, it should return an error if that email does not exist. So it means I have an account with that email. It means I have an account. So that is why it's not returning error. So what I will do is if I log out here, are you serious? Should I log this thing out? Oh my, I don't want to use this. Which one should I use? Let me go with which account can I go with? And I want to demo that. Forgot the password. Demo it. Which site can I use? 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 Let me go with Heroku and see if that will work. I will click on forgot password here. Now these are different websites. They are all doing the same thing. So forgot password is asking me to enter email, and I will enter this elite part devs and click on reset password. Now here the message says check your inbox for the next step. If you don't receive the email, then it is in your spam folder. So that's the first step. I will go back to the mail again and see if I have a mail there. And that should be on elite part here. Close this one. Let me see if this one will be fast. If it's not fast, I think it has something to do with network. So, because it rained today. Okay, now you see this email here. It says reset your password. So if you open it now, this part here is the access token. And you see it is directing me to a page, reset /password /account, and then the website name. So this is the website and the particular page it will go to reset the password. So if I click here now to reset this password, it will bring me to a page where you enter password, new password, and confirm password. Now it's not going to ask me to log in again. It will just directly take me to a page where I reset the password. So there are 2 steps to recovering a password. And I want to believe that is clear. If that is clear, drop a thumbs up so that we can continue. If that is clear,
okay, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So looking at the long run, generally for the backend, we're supposed to develop number of endpoints for logic.
Exactly. The front end. Now there are two type of backend developers. There are 2 type of backend developers, which I was going to talk about. Now, the first type of developer, like the old pattern of developers, they are developers that build their backend to render HTML pages. So the backend is rendering HTML pages. So they are more like full stack developers, but their full stack is built with HTML. So they are building HTML and the backend together. But there's a new type of developers, backend developers. The backend developers that build the logic. I think your job is to build different APIs that will be doing different logics, API that will be doing different logics. So that is the current, the backend developers that are invoked now. But we old pattern of backend developers before, we'll be building a backend to render HTML pages. Now, most websites are not built with HTML currently, although you need to learn HTML, but there are technologies that we use to build front end now, like React, Node.js, Vert, and so on and so forth. Most persons are not relying heavily on HTML, unless it's a simple website. You rely on HTML. Now, if you are building for HTML, you know you cannot build for mobile apps, but your backend is not just for website. It is also for mobile apps. So you are not rendering HTML pages, which is why I skipped that part. Building backend to render HTML pages is outdated currently, so there's no point going in that direction. The one on Invoke now are backend developers that are building APIs. Your job is to build APIs that will handle different logics. Logic to send messages, logic to authenticate users, logic for video calls, logic for anything, to save apps, save money, anything. So that's why I'm teaching you how to build APIs. And I want to believe that's clear. If that's also clear, drop a thumbs up so that we continue. If you have a question, you ask a question. Close this, and also close this. Exactly. The front-end developer is supposed to have access to your endpoint. Now, when we are building project, when you are building project, the designer, there will be a product designer, the person that will be designing the front end. Now, when the person is designing the front end, you, the backend developer, you've already started your own. You have already started building your backend. You should start building your backend immediately. The reason being, it takes time to finish your backend, and the front-end developer should not be waiting for you to be building backend. So you should have built your backend up to 50% complete as at the time the front-end developer wants to start. So when the front-end developer wants to start, you will give them a documentation containing all your endpoints and what each endpoint will do. So you give them a documentation. This endpoint is called this. This is what it will do. If it's a post request, you will tell them the payload that is expected. When I mean payload, I mean this thing that is expected in the body. So you tell them, for this endpoint is expecting a password and an email. For the other endpoint is expecting only email. And also any endpoint that requires access token, you will tell them this endpoint will not allow you unless you have access token. Or I will also teach you that part too. This endpoint, you can't call it except you are sending an access token. So you will tell them every information. By then, you've already gone 50% or 70% of your backend before the front-end developer will start. So the front-end developer needs to have all of those things before they start. Yes, what we are building, we are currently building RESTful APIs. That's what we are building. RESTful API. So it is not your job to link, the APIs to the front end. But we did it. If you could remember, before we started backend proper, we had to make requests to JSON placeholder. I don't know how many persons still remember that. Yes, we had to make requests to JSON placeholder, and then when you get a response, you can then do for each and then display everything on the front end. So that's how you link it to the front end. But it is not your job. That's for the front end developer. Yours is to build your backend, deploy it on the cloud, send them the URL, send them your API documentation, and also get ready for questions. Sometimes front end developers, they will stress the hell out of you as a backend developer. You give them documentation, you give them everything. They will still be doing out of point. So you need to be available for questions and everything, and also to guide them. That is if you have patience. But if you don't have patience, ask for the house address and then go and beat them up. So that's it. API documentations, hopefully before the end of this class, I'll teach you API documentations, but it's not hard. Like I said, I've just explained what API documentation is. You are telling them the name of each endpoint. You are telling them what each endpoint will do. You're also telling them what payload each endpoint is requiring. And you're also telling them which endpoint needs an access token or not. So that's API documentation. But because we are using Postman, we can generate documentation very easily with Postman. And I think I'll also show you that before the end of the class. Actually, it's the front end people that are really, really annoying, not the back end person. It's actually the front end that's annoying. So that being said, where are we? We are in reset password here. So after you find the user, the next thing you want to do is you want to perform this if there is a user. So this one for when there is no user, this one for if there is a user. Now, if there is a user, you want to take the user dot, no, you don't want to do this. First, you need to hash their password. You need to hash their password. You say const hashed password. You don't save the raw password. Hash password await is equal to bcrypt dot hash. Sorry, I have two equal to here. bcrypt.hash, the first thing you pass in here is the password and then the sort rounds, which is 12. I want to believe you understand what this thing means. You're using bcrypt to hash the password 12 times. That's what it means. So here now, you then say the user.password, that the password of the user is now equal to the new hashed password. And then you await to save the user information, user.save, and that's it. So with this now, you've actually reset the user's password. You can then return a response and say password reset successful. Response.status 200 and .json with a message that says successful or password reset successful, anyone. So ladies and gentlemen, this is how you reset user password. So it is actually in 2 steps. The first step is the forgot password part. You get their email, authenticate it, make sure that how do I put it? Make sure they are the owner of that email. Then you generate an access token. Let me open it up while I'm explaining. This is the first part, the forgot password part. You get their email, find that user, and then if the user doesn't exist, you return. Then you want to sign a token for them. You first generate the payload, get your access token from your process environment, and then sign the user's payload with your token, and also set the time that expires. Now you make sure you define a URL, including their access token together, and send it to their email. Now, if you send it to their email, you can then return a response that says successful. So when they go to their email, they will click on that link. When they click on the link, it will take them to a page to type in a new password. So they type in the new password, but that password should be coming with the access token that you generated for them. That it should be coming with the access token you generated for them. That's how you know who the user, the exact user that want to change their password. But because we have not touched that part yet, I have a beta checker, I have not touched that one yet. So we have not touched that one. We are going to. That's why I'm using email to find the user now. This is not how it is done. We don't use email to find it. You use the access token. So, but because we have not touched that one yet, we are using email to find the user. Now we'll find the user. If you don't find the user, return user not found. But if you find the user, hash their new password 12 times and then set the new user password to be the hashed password, and then you save the user details and return a response that it was successful. So now they can log in with their new password. That is it. JWT means JSON Web Token. This is it here. JSON Web Token. Now, it is used to generate tokens that cannot be decrypted, or how do I not decrypt? I mean, that cannot be, will I say, adulterated. Tokens that cannot be generated randomly by anybody. So that's what JWT is, JSON Web Token. I didn't want to write the full name here, so I just wrote JWT for short, but the name is actually JSON Web Token. Now, when you are applying for jobs, in the job requirement, you will definitely see them say backend developers that are good with JSON Web Token. They do mention it in their as part of their requirement. So you'll see it too, JSON Web Token. Now, as a backend developer, you write your code and you deploy it to the cloud. That's where your job ends. Now, the cloud engineer or the DevOps, their job begins from when you have deployed your website. So the cybersecurity, the cloud engineer, the DevOps, their job begins when you have deployed your backend to the cloud. That's when it begins. Yes.
Okay, so sorry, regarding that.
Yeah, go ahead.
The deploying to the cloud. Okay, some people are already familiar with the cloud, maybe using various architecture like, is it when they are done with the backend, then we use various tools like Docker, all that. So who does the Docker and all that? Is it the DevOps or the backend?
Now, if you're doing Docker, that's actually DevOps. But there are some backend.
Oh, okay.
There are some backend jobs that will ask you to be good with Docker. You understand? So, but using Docker and other cloud tools are actually DevOps.
Kubernetes.
Yeah, Kubernetes, they're all for DevOps, but there are some job roles that will require you to know those things as a backend developer. But it doesn't mean that because you don't know how to use Docker, you cannot build backend projects. You can actually work in companies that do Docker. So what it means is that in a company, you might have 3 or 4 backend developers. So your job is to build. You may have one person in your midst that is good with Docker. That's the person that will do Docker stuff for you people. Or maybe with time, you learn the Docker and you do it yourself. Cost rep, I agree with you. Front-end developers are very, very annoying. Is the front-end that annoying? Okay. Yes. Email is, I want to get this question. Now, the email is unique. The reason why you can't use it is because now you don't know if the person that sent this password is actually the owner of the account or a hacker that is trying to change their password. So the forgot password API, what it did for you was to send an email to the user. So since it has already sent an email to the user's email, the person that will click on that URL is the rightful owner of the account. So if you use email, anybody can send you email. A hacker can just go to website to reset your password with just email and password, and they will reset it. But because you are sending them an email, the owner of that email will be the only person, except the hacker has also hacked their email. Except in that case, then there's nothing you can do. But you need to help the users so that people don't gain access to their account without them knowing it. So even after you have initiated to reset the password, you will send them an email again that their password has been reset. If it is them, then they should do nothing. But if it is not them, they should contact your customer care or your support, anyone. So that way, if the person password was reset without them knowing, they can contact your support. The support will tell you, we got a request from a user that the user says somebody reset their password. You, the backend developer, you just quickly go there and disable that account. Once you disable the account, then you start, the customer care or support will start interfacing with the user, asking them questions. When was your last login? What details do you have? This and that and that. When they have confirmed that that is the rightful owner, that the backend developer will go and activate the password and then generate a new password for them to use like that. Yeah, passport is a different type of module used for authentication. Now, passport is used when you want it to expire in sessions. Sessions meaning when it is inactive. So instead of setting expiry date and time, you just set sessions. Say, if this person is not doing anything, on this page is just open. The person has not pressed any button or clicked anything. Let the token expire. So that's what passport is used for. Passport is second to JSON Web Token. Like another one, you can use it. If you're not using JSON Web Token, you can use passport. So passport is mainly used for sessions, especially for apps that if the screen is open and the person has not touched anything, let the token just expire like that. So that's when you use passport. But for JWT, whether you are pressing something, whether you're not pressing something, at a particular set time, the token will expire. Yeah, passport is still used to date. Passport is still used to date, but it's not in all cases. But people use JSON Web Token more, but it doesn't mean a passport is old version. You depend on what you are building and how you are building it. You use passport like that. So we are okay. If you have any question, you ask your question. So I want to actually send this reset password and put it here and test it too. So even though I don't test it, I want to believe by now you know what to do. App.post, and then you are posting this to /reset password. Sorry, I forgot that. And then you do let me bring in the handle reset password here. Sorry, is it not handle reset password? I've forgotten the name of that. I'm supposed to call it reset. It's called reset password, but there's no handle there. So it's just called reset password. There's no handle. And like I said, it's not compulsory that you must put handle. It's however you want to name your function. So I'll save that. That's for reset password.
Like you're using more of the way you use React, maybe React.
Exactly. That's what. Exactly. So how do you disable an account? Now, when you build your backend, you will build a dashboard. You're not the person that will build a dashboard, but part of your APIs will also be to build APIs for dashboard, the admin dashboard. So apart from the user part, you will build APIs for admin dashboard, meaning that in the user model here, you're going to have another key here that will say whether the account is active or not. And the type here will be Boolean. Yes, and by default, it will be true. Like this. By default, the active state will be true, meaning the moment the person creates an account, their account is active, like that. But as a backend developer, you are going to be building endpoint for admin dashboard. So you're going to have something like this: const disable, or maybe handle disable user account. is equal to async request response. Now this is strictly for admins. Now you can also give access to the user to be able to disable their account too. Of course, Google makes that compulsory. Should allow users to disable their account if they want. So what you want to do is you want to know who the user is. That means you must get the user that is trying to do this. If it is the user or if it is the admin. So you must get the token. So it is either you are getting the user. Sorry, am I still online? Yes, I am. Am I still recording this thing? Yes, I am. So either you are getting the user token, the user must be logged in order to disable the account, or the admin must be logged in to disable a user account. So you then find the user they want to disable the account with the ID, and from from request.params. So when you get the ID, you then say find the user, const user is equal to await auth.find by ID, which is this, and then you pass in the user ID. Now, if you don't find the user, you return a response that says user not found. So I will not type that, I'll just get it from here. Yeah, so if you don't find the user, return a response, user not found. But if you find the user, you say user.active active is equal to false, like this. And then you await to save the user details, user.save. Sorry, I always forget to add try catch. The reason why I forget to add try catch is because I want to be able to move on to the next. So bear with me. You should be adding try catch here, and I want to believe you know what try catch is. So you should be adding try catch here. So once you do this, you want to return a response, and that's all. So here now you are using the active key when it is true to grant them access. So that means what you will do in your login is this. Now, before you generate the access token, when you check that the password have matched, you want to check if their account is active or disabled. So check if user account is active. So what you want to do is say if user.active is equal to false. So you know by default you set it that it has to be what? True. And also you are setting that the account can be disabled here where you set it to what? False. So when it is false, it means that account should not be allowed to log in. But if it is true, then the account should be allowed to log in. So here you are checking if the user account .active is equal to false. If it is equal to false, you want to return. You want to return a response dot status 401 authentication error JSON with a message that says user not found. Now you will not tell them that the account is not active or anything. You just tell them that the user is not found or the user does not exist, anyone like that. But if the account is true, it will go ahead, generate an access token, and then log them in. That's how you do it. But this part now is like the ending part of your project where you've built everything. You want to allow for user account to be disabled and enabled like that. So they can disable a particular user and that user will not be able to log in again. So that's how you disable a user. Where is this coming from? Active is not a method, it is just a key here. So you can call this thing anything you want. I'm just calling it active. whether the user is active or not. So you don't have to call it active. You can call it anything, maybe verified. You can call it anything you want, like that. So, but you're using this key to know when the account has been disabled. That's what this key is for. Now, if it is set to true, then the account is active, is working. But if it is false, it means that the account has been disabled and should not be allowed to log in. Yes, if you have saved the data, you can edit it again and then save it again. You can edit it again and save it again. Exactly. Now, as a backend developer, let's assume you are working for which software will I use now? Sorry. I'm trying to remember a particular. I'm just looking for one that I know will fit in the example. Let's say Jumia. Is it Jumia? Or let's go with Uber Eats. Uber. Both does not have a website. Both has only a mobile app. I'm looking for a particular website, a particular solution that I know that works well. Now, if you have, for example, if you have a software that uses a mobile app and a website together, they do the same thing. You can do something on the mobile app. You can do the same thing on their website. Now, that kind of solution, as their backend developer, you will build APIs for the front end, which is the website. You will build APIs for the mobile, which is the mobile application. You will build APIs for the user dashboard. That is, if there is anybody like a retailer that sells market, maybe both drivers, they have their own dashboard. Their own is different from the user. You know, both has a mobile app. The interface that the user will see and the interface that the boat rider will see and the interface that the admin will see are not the same thing. They are different interfaces. So you as a backend developer, you build APIs for those three interfaces, and that's just for the mobile app. Now imagine it has a website too. You also, although the APIs, the two of them work the same thing, and also you have the admin part, you build APIs for the admin part. So as a backend developer, you build APIs for everything they are using. Quotation at the end. I don't know what this means, but if quotation, I don't think there's any shortcut to bring quotation. I use this one, shift as quotation. I don't think there's any shortcut I use. So active is not a method. You're just using it to check when the account is active. Yeah. Now this conditional rendering in React, that is a different case. The React developer can choose what to do with the active, but you as the front end, the back end, you are using that active to check when the user is allowed to log in and when the user is not allowed to log in. Now, if the user is not allowed to log in, you will not be sending them access token. So by default, the front end developer doesn't need to do anything. If he sees token, it will log them in. If it doesn't see token, it will not log them in, except you want to leave it to the front-end developer to check when the user is active before it logs them in. So, but that's not the better way. If you allow the conditional rendering for the front-end developer, it may not work perfectly. The backend should be in charge to know when the user is allowed to log in and when it's not allowed to log in. Yes, we tested the Postman lab. For example, I will save this. I have for forget password. I also have for reset password. Now, for forgot password, we have tested that one where you are sending, but the thing now is you are not sending to we have just put the email here. And once you send the email, you get a response that says successful, but we are not sending the email yet. So, but for the front end, but for this other one, reset password, which is this, you can also test it again here and then create another endpoint here, which will be for post, and that will be this. Change this to reset password, and make sure that this is going to be the body, and the body is raw, and it's raw JSON. So here you can bring in that email that is from here, because for now we are using email, although like I said, you're not supposed to use email, you're supposed to use their token. So you have the password here, password, and the password will be anything you want it to be, whatever you want it to be, like that. Let me just write something like this. So if you send this request down, and you should be getting a response that says successful. That's how you know it's working. But like I said, you should be sending, you should not be using the email to find this user. You use that token. So but every other thing here is perfect, and it's going to work very well like this. So the moment you see successful, it means it was successful. But if it's not successful, it's going to stop here. If you don't find the user, it will stop here. But if it passes that, now you can also check whether it is actually returning the hash password by adding that here to the end of it. So you want to check whether it's actually hashing the password and sending you the hashed password. So you can save that and then come back here and send, and you see that we are getting the hashed password. So it's working, and it's working perfectly. The only thing is that we're not yet sending email to the user, but we're going to get to that part. Yes. Tracker, is it to be added in each API or at the beginning and at the end? No. For each API, every API you build, before you start writing your codes, and use try catch. Before you start writing your code, you use try catch. Yes. If you build an API that disables the user, you can also build another one to enable the user, or you build one endpoint to change the state. If the state before was false, change it to true. If it is true, change it to false. So you can have one API to do the two of them, or you can have two APIs to do something separately like that. Exactly, like CUDA. So if you have the mobile app and you have the website, there will also be a user dashboard. Now, the website is the front end, something everybody, the public, will see. The user dashboard is the asset, the dashboard that only the user that is logged in will see. The admin dashboard is the front end that only the admin that is logged in will see, and the mobile app like that. So as a backend developer, you are building APIs for all of them like that. Now, there are algorithms for front end, there are algorithms for back end. Your APIs are actually your algorithms. So you will write your algorithms and perform your logic. Based on your logic, the front end developer will then write their own algorithms to fit what you are doing. And that is why you must have first built your back end before the front end developer starts their job. Or maybe sometimes if the front end developer has already started, he or she will have to wait for you to at least finish up to 50% before they can start calling your API. It's all right. You're welcome. Exactly. Now you don't want to give them the documentation. Now how we did now? Most times you can have 3 front-end developers working with only 1 back-end developer. Of course, you see that you have more front-end students than back-end. So we don't have too much back-end. You can have 1 developer working with, I have been in that case before, working with 3 developers, which is why the back-end needs to start first, because you can't keep up as a back-end. The mobile app developer needs API. The front-end website developer guy needs API. The dashboard guy needs API. So you need to start first, and you've gone 50% before you build. So for everybody, you will build their APIs, you will give them documentation, all of them. So your job is build and give them documentation. That's the only way they can because they don't understand what's going on the back end. You'll be the one to explain to them what's actually going on the back end. Now for the token, we're also going to talk about how to use the token. That's where we're going to. Yes, API is everywhere. You will build API and you will get tired of building API. Now the funny part is, just because they've launched the project doesn't mean you will stop building API. As a backend developer, you will continue to build API. You will continue to build API. It's difficult. Now, it is very easy to replace a front-end developer, but it's difficult to replace a back-end developer. Now, if you replace the back-end developer, the new back-end developer you are getting may spoil things or may take time before they are up to speed with the code base. But as the person who built the project from scratch, you can always add in new functionalities after new functionality. You will believe me, when Facebook started, it is not the same Facebook that we have now. You also believe that when Access Bank started, the mobile app is not the same way it's working now, including so many other softwares, CUDA, name all of them. They are not the same way they are now. The first time you launch it, the backend and the front end, they will still keep working. They'll still keep adding functionalities and keep building. So as a backend, you write APIs everywhere. Exactly, it's needed for them to be consumed like that. The thing is this, when it comes to pay as a backend developer, of course they pay backend very well. And even though backend is simple, for me, I think backend is simple, but they pay backend very well, because without the backend, there will be no logic. Nothing will be working. It will not be working. So how will they fix everything without the backend? So the backend gets paid well. A typical example is if you call an electrician. If you call an electrician and then the electrician is working inside your room, you are seeing what the electrician is working on. If the person changed a wall socket, you know that it is only a wall socket that the electrician changed. But if that electrician climbs the ceiling and decides to remain in that ceiling from morning till 4 p.m., and then comes down and tell you that the project in that ceiling is too much, the whole wire has burnt, everything has spoiled, I will come back tomorrow again and continue. Will you argue with him? You will not argue with him now. And if he asks you to pay him so and so amount, will you argue? You will not argue, because you are not seeing it and you have to pay him. So that's one advantage of the back end. People don't really pay attention on what's going on in the back end. So based on that, they pay back end very well. So that is that, and I want to believe we still have time. Yes, you build your backend, you create your database, you populate it with data while you are working. So while you are working, you build your database, you set everything, and then when you are ready to deploy, you are going to delete all those dummy data and then allow for fresh new data by the user. That's how it works. So just give me a few minutes. All right. So do we have any other question? Now, the MongoDB generates ID automatically. You just have, I think Jonah has trust issues. That, although I don't blame you, Jonah, we as Nigerians, we have trust issues. So when somebody will do something for us, we want to be very sure that they did the right thing. So you don't have to worry whether the API corresponds with the ID. MongoDB handles that. MongoDB creates an API ID for everybody, and it is correct. So there's nothing to worry about. Yeah. So that's for that. Now we can move on to validations. Now, all of these things we've done, we are not validating this input. Now, it is very, very important to validate input. Now, if you don't validate input, things will spoil on your backend. And users will not know, because a lot of users visit website, they will be testing out anything. They'll be sending empty data, they'll be sending the wrong data, they'll be doing sending anything. Now, if you are not validating, that's how your backend will just be crashing up and down, and you will not know. And most times, users are not doing anything, but they'll be sending requests. When your backend has so many requests at the same time, and it cannot handle all of them, your backend will crash. For example, you build your backend, you have your backend is being used by 1,000 users, 2,000 users, 30,000 users, like that. So all of those users may not log in at the same time to use your backend or to use your software at the same time. But in a case where you have all of those users logged in at the same time, and they are doing maybe not the same thing, but they are calling different APIs at different times, but all of them are calling those APIs at the same time. You want to be sure, you want to be certain that it is only the valid request that will be handled. Any request that is just dummy, you want to send it back. Anyone that is not genuine, you want to send it back, like that, so that your backend will have space to handle other requests that are genuine and real. Imagine if people want to make transfer with your mobile app. A lot of person want to make transfer at this particular moment, and some people who want to make that transfer, they are entering an amount that is not up to the right amount to make transfer. Why are you wasting our time here? Just send that request back. You should know the limit of which you want to make transfer. That's the first one. Number two, you are trying to make a transfer and you are making mistake with the bank name or maybe the account number. Why are you wasting our time? Just send that request back so that you have memory and space to handle users who know what they are doing. Otherwise, your backend will crash and everybody's request will fail. Everybody. Nobody will be able to do transfer again. So that is why validation is very, very important. You validate every single thing. Nothing should get missing. Please, even if I don't do it, validate everything. Yeah, authorization is the part of validation. It's not like the only validation. So validation, you can be validating the authorization, you can be validating the payload, you can be validating everything. Just validate every single thing. So what the database information does not to be changed, like past question, just for users. Now, if you have a software that records assessment where you don't want the data to change, of course it will not be changed. You are the one that is in charge. You're not removing, you're not editing them. So rather you are creating new ones. So there's no point changing them. So I don't see an issue there. So the users get to log in and you send them to that particular one. If they want to see based on year, for last year's own, last 2 years own, last 3 years own, is your choice. You decide how to. Now the ID for MongoDB is object ID. And object ID is a little, it is not like, what do you mean by object ID? Number one, is difficult to be, you cannot have two users with the same ID. So it's different. Okay, so please let's just go to validation so that I will not miss that. Now, when it comes to validation, you will not be doing this validation here like we are doing here. No, you don't. Where will you do it? So what I will do is I will create a dummy endpoint. This is app.post. And this will be for /valid. I will just call it valid like this. I want to use this endpoint to show you what validation is. So I will come here, I will create a function to handle valid. Const handle valid will be an async function that will take the request and the response and send you back a response, of course. Return, first return a response dot status of 200.json and put a message of successful. So we have this. Now I want to demo for you what, sorry, I'm not exporting it. I need to first export it and then use auto import. I want to believe you know how to import it by now. I don't want to do this. I'll remove it. I'll keep it here. Yeah. So I have this here. Now, this is what I have. And if I come to my, please, I would like you to follow along with this validation because like I said, you must validate everything. So make sure you understand what I'm doing with validation. If you don't understand it, don't allow me to cross it. So I will change this one to be valid and then send this request. It's successful. Now, for now, we are not expecting any payload. The backend is not asking for any payload. So it's just a simple post request. There's nothing there. What happens is if you make request to this endpoint, it will call this function. What does this function do? This function will just send you back a response. It's not doing anything. So if you understand to this point, drop a thumbs up so that we continue. If you understand this valid endpoint, drop a thumbs up so that I can continue. All right. Sadiq, you don't? All right. When we talk about payload simply means what you send to that endpoint. That's what payload is. The variables you should be sending. For example, this register now, the payload here is the phone number, the password, the full name, and the email. That's what we call payload. So payload is what you send. Now in this login, the payload here is the password and the email. So anything you send in the request body is what we call payload. And I want to believe you understand that. So that's what payload is. So what I am trying to explain with this valid endpoint, we are trying to do validations. So to do validations, I want to set up a simple route. This route is called valid. If you call valid route, it will call this function handle valid, which is this. Now, what will handle valid do? Handle valid will just send a response successful. That's what handle valid will do. So if I come here, I type in a post request for handle valid and I send and I'm getting successful. So I'm asking you, do you understand to this point? If you understand, drop a thumbs up so that I will continue. If you don't, all right. So no, that's not validation. That's not validation. We've not been validating. We want to do validation now. I think I need to put try catch. Sorry, let me put try catch now. I forgot to put try catch. Try catch, and then I'll put this one inside the try block here. So for the catch, I'll copy this particular one. Sorry, I'm feeling a bit lazy, so that's why I'm not typing it. So we have a try catch, and the only thing it's doing is to send us back a successful message. So I want to demo what this is. Where's that my board? What's it called? I think it's called Jamboard. Yes, I want to demo what validation is. Exactly. Now, validation is not just for the data. You also want to make sure that the user is logged, the correct user is actually logged in. So that's what validation is. Yes. This is also part of validation. Yes. Like I said, everything, you need to validate every single thing. Yeah, this is validation. So let's demo what, sorry, where will I have the, I think I have it here. So I will create a new one. Let me just. So I want to just show you what the middleware is, and what goes on. So let's say we have a request, which is this dummy request I have created. Is not doing anything. Sorry, how do I clear these things now? I think I can go to next page, and next page. So let's say we have a request that's moving from here to here. At this part here, we have our API here to handle the request. At this point, we have the endpoint, which is /valid. Sorry, I'm not writing it well, but just bear with me. Now it's in the other system. So this is our request that is moving from one point to another, which is this point here. So it's moving from the endpoint to this part. When we are doing validation, we don't do the validation inside here. We are going to intercept the request here and do our validation here. If it process, it then send it to continue on its way. But if it doesn't, we want to send it back. So this is what validation is. So what validation is, when the request is moving from the endpoint and going to this part, it will not reach here. We intercept it here, send it to a function. This function will check everything. Now, if it is successful, we'll then send it to the API. But if it's not correct, we'll send it back to the user. So this is what validation is. So I want to believe you understand this diagram, even though it's not perfect. You make a request to /valid. The request will be going, but it will be intercepted here and then sent to a function. That function will handle it, check everything. If everything is correct, it will then send it to the API. But if everything is not correct, it will send it back. So how do we do that? So what I will do is I will create a folder here. And I will, you know what, let me not create the folder yet. I will create a new file and I'll call it middleware.js. And I want to believe you know what a middleware is. A middleware is any function that runs in the middle. So I'll write a function here and I'll call it const validate valid, whatever you want to call it. It's an async function. You can make it an async if you want. It accepts the request and the response. The reason why it's accepting the request is it needs to intercept the request. So intercept the request and then come here and do module.export. I need to export it. Module.export is equal to, I'll be exporting more than one. So I'll export as an object, copy it and paste it here. So this is what I want to do. I have my API that will handle the request. currently there is nothing in between this request. This request move from here straight to this place, and we can demo that. When you send this request, it goes and returns successful. It just returning successful every time. But now we have a function called valid middleware. So what we can do is this. I will import that function here. Const, I wanted the structure is equal to require dot slash from middleware. You know what? Yeah, from middleware, and it's called validate valid. That's the first function. So I will put this function in the middle here, because that's what it is. It's a middleware. So what I'm doing is I have my function to handle the request here. I have the endpoint here. But in the middle, I have another function here. So if I save it now and make this request, you see that the request is now hanging. Why is it hanging? The reason why it's hanging is that the request has now been intercepted by this function, but the function is not returning anything. The function is not doing anything with it. That is why it is still hanging. So that's what a middleware does. A middleware will sit in the middle between the endpoint and the function that will handle the endpoint. So until this function says proceed to the next, that request will not come here. So it is this function that will tell the request to either continue on its way or bounce the request back. That's what middleware is. So do you understand to this point? Oh my God. Which part are you lost in? Share. Tell me, which part are you lost in? Valid part. Any other person? Is there another person that does not understand or understands? All right. So for the sake, exactly, a middleware can be seen as a gatekeeper. Until you settle the gatekeeper, you're not entering the compound. So that's so for the sake of the share that does not understand, let me just go through it once more, but please pay attention. Pay attention. So what I'll do is I'll remove this. Now I have this endpoint here called valid, and it is a post request. Now when this endpoint is called, we have a function that will handle the request, which is this handle valid. So this handle valid is here. This is what's called handle valid. The only thing it does is to return a response that says successful. That's what it does. So we can demo that by going to Postman. If I send this request now, it returns successful because it's not doing anything. It's not doing, but the moment you call this valid, it will call this function to run it. And what this function is just doing is to return a message that says successful. That's all it is doing. Do you understand to this point, Ishe? Yes, it can actually be bribed. So in this case, it is not being bribed, but no, we cannot bribe it. You cannot bribe it. So, Ishe, do you understand to this point? Drop a thumbs up so that we continue. Do you understand to this point? Is she here? You know, Samuel, for every time I start a new project, I'll be using data to start new project. Hopefully, when we are going to do MVC rule, hopefully, pray that I'm in a good mood and I have data to start a new project. But even if I don't start a new project, you should understand it now, because by now you're now a good backend. So Isha is not here, and I want to believe she should watch the video and tell us what's going on now. Even if you don't understand the video, we are recording the class. Please watch this video now. If you don't understand anything, we have recorded what the video and you understand what we're explaining at any time. So, like I said, we just have a function here to handle this endpoint. You call this endpoint, it will call this handle valid, and the only thing the handle valid is doing is to return a response that says successful. So what do I want to do? I want to show you that this request moves from here to here. Nothing hinders it. Nothing hinders this request. It moves from here to here without any hindrance. And so we can demo that when we send this request, it's going very fast because it's not doing anything. It's just returning a response. So, and then I want to show a diagram that let's assume that this part here is our endpoint. This is our endpoint. And when you call this endpoint, the request will go straight to the API that will handle it. But now we are introducing a middleware. Sorry, let me just write it however I can. A middleware. So now we are introducing a middleware. In the middle, what it will do is that the request will not go straight to the API again. Rather, the request will reach here and will be intercepted by the middleware. Now, if the middleware is satisfied with all the explanation that the request will give, it will then send the request to continue on its way to the API. But if the middleware is not satisfied with the explanation, if they're asking you, you were there, you say, no, I was not there. Were you there? You were not there. It will send you back. It will just send the request back to the user like that. So that is the job of a middleware. And so what we did was to create a simple middleware here. So I created a new file, call it middleware.js here. So inside this middleware.js, I created a function because I told you a middleware is a function. So the function is empty. It's not doing anything. It just accepts the request and the response object. So it's not doing anything, and we are exporting it here. So here now, we are importing that validate middleware. You know what? Let me, we're importing that validate middleware function from middleware. And then we are taking it, we add it in the middle here. So now this request will not go direct to the API, the endpoint, the function to handle the endpoint. Rather, this validate middleware will intercept it and question it, interrogate it very well before it will send it to this place. If it's not satisfied, it will return it back to the user. And we can demo that by now. If I send this request now, it is now hanging. The reason why it is hanging is because the request is not going direct to the API. Rather, it is being intercepted by this middleware. And this middleware is not doing anything. That is why the request is still hanging. Now, it is this middleware that will say proceed or return. If this middleware says proceed, then it will proceed to the main API function. But if this middleware says no, go back, then it will go back. Yes. Now, it is only a stopper. You call it only a stopper when the request does not do what it wants, or is not following instructions, or is not exactly what it wants. Exactly. The middleware is the checkpoint where you stop it and you check everything, and if you are not satisfied, it will return back like that. What we are building is a RESTful API. Everything we are building here is RESTful API. That's what RESTful API is. Now, another type of API will be the GraphQL API or the what other API, but what you are building is RESTful API. So you have nothing to worry about. In job interviews, you will hear them say RESTful API, RESTful API. That's what you are building, RESTful API. As a backend developer, any API that is handling logic and sending back response in this format is what we call RESTful API. But I will explain, maybe if we have more time, I will explain that later. Yes, if there's going to be a crashing, the middleware will stop it from happening. Now, so that is why you need a middleware. Now, the middleware will take the request first. Tell the request, come, pack one side first, or you bring your papers, everything. You check everything, make sure that everything is correct before sending it. Now, I know that some radio stations, if you call them, the call doesn't go direct to the presenter. Somebody will pick it first and then be interviewing you, ask you questions. Now the presenter will then see the name of who is calling and everything before they send the call direct to the presenter. So that's what. No, the try catch is mainly to handle error. Just handle error. Now the middleware is not just for error, it's for validation. Now, for example, if you are trying to create a password, you know that some password will tell you to enter capital letter, enter small letter, enter special characters, make it 6 letters long. All of those things, try catch doesn't do it. So a middleware is a function that can do that. You get a function to check this password you are sending to us. Does it have capital letter? Does it have small letter? Does it have special character? Is it 6 characters long? Like that. So that's what a middleware will do. Exactly. A middleware will ask who goes there. So a try catch is just to check errors. But a middleware will validate more than errors. It validates a lot. So we're going to also check that too. So back to what we have. Now we have a middleware here. So what we can do is the same way we accept what the middleware is sending us. We can accept their username and their password from the request, because the middleware needs to know that the data you are sending is correct. So here you can say if not email, return a res.status 400.json with a message that says, please enter email. Please enter email, like this. So this is the email. Now, if there is no email, the middleware will return the request back. But if there's an email, the request will keep hanging. So let's try it. Now, if I send this request, the middleware has returned, please enter email. So now we can enter email. Let me just copy only email, which is this. So I have this. Now, if I send it, it is now hanging because we have email. So that's what a middleware does. Now, inside the middle, if you notice, our API here is not handling all of those validation. This API here, which is just ready to do logic. After you have done the whole necessary validation, you have checked for papers, you have checked for their driver's license, you check that everything is complete before the function will start doing its own logic. So that's what the middleware is. So here now, but like I said, we are no longer beginners. We are going to do it the way it should be done. There's every possibility that the user may not enter email and the user may not enter password. In that case, you don't want to do this. If not this, if not this, if not password, return again. If password is not up to else, if password dot length, you want to check the length of the password. If password dot length is less than 6, return. So this this, you don't want to be doing return, so many, because there will be so many checks. You want to validate so many things. Now, the way you do it, the way I do it, I'll just define, because I might send back multiple error messages at all. You don't need to trust the user. Now, the thing is, the user is not seeing what's going on the back end, so they will just be doing anything. So long as the front end allows them, they will just be doing anything. So you, the backend developer, you should be the one to handle and validate everything. So what I'll do is I'll say errors, because I might have multiple errors, is equal to an array. So instead of returning every single time, returning, what I'll do is this. I'll remove this, and then say if there is no email, push to the error array. I think it should be called errors. So this is called errors. Errors dot push to the array that says please add your email, like this. So it means that if there is no email, it will push this error message into this array. Now, if there is no password again, if there is no password, you take the errors array and then push to it and say, please enter a password, like this. But if they enter the password, but the password is not up to 6 characters, you then say errors dot push. Here you are entering how do I put the sentence now? I'll say password must be 6 characters. 6 characters, like that. So that's for password. And if I save this, what will happen is that if I save this, it is going to check whether the user is entering email. It will check whether the user is entering their email. If there is no email, it will push this message to this array. And I want to believe you know. Yes, you can. Sorry, I forgot. Let errors be equal to that. I forgot that part. So you can declare the array to be an empty array, like that. I forgot that part. So now what you want to do is say, if now you want to send back the response. The reason why I am using arrays is because I don't want to be sending response and response and response. The reason is you should send response only once. So if the user committed multiple offense, gather the whole offense together and send all of them at once, instead of sending them one by one. Now you can't send them twice. If you send a response back, that's the end. It cannot do the next one. So, but if the user committed multiple offense, you want to gather the whole offense together and send it back to them, all of them at once. So here I would then check if errors. I want to check if there are errors or if the length is greater than 0. If the length of that array is greater than 0, then I want to return the whole response. So return res.status of 400 status, like this, 400, and JSON, return a JSON, and the message now will be the errors, the whole errors in that array. So this is how you do a professional validation, like this. You declare your middleware function, accept the request, accept the response, and take whatever payload you are taking from there, whatever you want to validate, you take it from there, create an error array to contain all the whole offense the user will commit. You then check their email. If there is no email, you push this message to the array, to the errors array. You check the password. If there is no password, then you push this one. But if there is a password and the password length is not up to 6 characters, you push this one, and then you check if this array has length. If it's greater than 0, if there is a message there, if it's not empty, then you return a response once, and then the message will be all the messages that are inside this array. So if you save it now and return a response, you will see that now there is an email, but there is no password. That's why it's returning an array of errors that says please enter email. But if I remove this email, for example, and I send this response, you will see please enter email, please enter a password. So you gather the whole offense together and you send to the user. Do you understand to this point, or you have a question? Go ahead and ask your question. But if you understand, drop a thumbs up so that we continue. Do you understand this validation part to this point? All right. Good. So let's continue. So this validation is just for one. It's not for all of them. It's just for one. So what I'll do now is I will enter a password, and I will enter and this is password, and I'll just make it to be like 5 characters so that you see that it's also validating the last one. Sorry, this thing crashed. It says why did it crash? Error is not defined. I am using errors and not error, so I missed the S here. It's error and not errors, rather, not error. So if I send the request again, I will then see password must be 6 characters. Now that is one. Now we can also test it to see that it contains number, or maybe it has a capital letter and so on and so forth. You can also test that here if you want, and that will be else if not. I think so. I want to believe so. Sorry, let's get the validations. So I think let's go validation not square bracket 0 to 9. I think so. Dot test password. This is the regex to check whether it contains number. I will test it. I'm just testing it. Let's see if this is actually correct and is working. Dot push and see password must contain a number. I think so. So let's send this request now. Oh, I'll change this to letters only, and then send. Yeah, it's working. Password must contain a number. So if I put a number here like 3 and send this request, so sorry for that break. I don't know what happened to my internet. Just, yeah, it's network. So sorry, it was network, and I am back. We can continue from where we stopped. So let me share my screen again. All right. So what we worked on was to create a middleware function. You can call it anything. It doesn't have to be called validate, but I like adding the keyword validate. So that way I will know that it is a middleware. That's for me personally. I like adding the keyword validate. No. The recording is still there. It did not crash. Stay there. So the recording is still there. It's not crashing. So let's just run through again. We create a function, accept the payload that we want to validate or verify. We create an empty array that will house all the errors. Then we do the first validation for the email. The first, but I think I have a. There is a validation. There is a regex to check JavaScript regex to validate email. To validate email. I think there's a regex to validate email, which is this. Sorry, I'll find it so that we can use it. Now, so that the user doesn't type in any email, any random email. You have to type in something that is looking like an email. Some people type in, yeah, this is the function to validate email. So what we'll do is we'll get this function. Now, should I use this one or this one? Which one? I'm looking for the perfect one to use. There are so many of them, but there's one I like using. Return string. These are not really cool. Let me go to my this thing and find my own. Sorry, I'll go to GitHub. I want to find the exact one I use. There are dependencies like Zod that you can use for validation, but it is good you understand what the validation is, because most of these dependencies were built with something different in mind. So most of these dependencies were built with something in mind, but you as the backend developer, you should be able to build your own custom validation. You should be able to build your own custom validations, although there are dependencies you can use to validate email, validate some other things, but you should be able to build your own validation. So you can use a validator if you want, but you should be able to do it practically yourself, just in case your company is asking for something that is not covered by that validator. You know how validation is done. Now, leaving validation to the front end can be somehow risky. Reason being, front end can be hacked easily and they will bypass the front end. So if you are validating that the person must be logged in, that validation must be done on the back end. Sometimes you can do a validation for payment. Let's say a user that is trying to subscribe to DSTV needs to make payment first before they will be credited, before that DSTV will be subscribed. So as a backend developer, you could be doing certain things to make sure, to validate that the person has already made payment. Otherwise, any random hacker can just call the endpoint to subscribe a user's DSTV without the payment part. So if you're leaving it for the front end, some people can bypass front end because the front end is shown on the browser and you are not the only one that knows JavaScript. But the back end, you are not seeing it on the browser. It's not on the browser. It's deployed on the cloud. Except I give you login details to that cloud or even tell you where it is. You cannot go there. And even if you go there, will you enter into the codes and write something different? Though you can. So validation is secured when it is done on the back end than in the front end. If you leave it for the front end guy can do it well, but it's risky leaving validation only to the front end. Sometimes it can be bypassed because it's on the web, it can be bypassed. So, but if it's done on the back end, it is secured. It's definitely sure that nobody is, except you want to do what they did and told us that the INEX server crashed and all of that, except you want to do that. So let me get my own validation that I normally use from a project. And the reason why I'm doing this is because, like I said, we should be doing things the professional way. I don't have it at the top of my head, but where do I get it from? Sorry, you know what? I will just get it myself. Let me. I can't find. I don't know where to find it. Let me just find it here. I'll find it on the browser. So I'll say JavaScript valid. Let me remove the keyword regex so that it do not bring plenty of them. If validate email. Now any of these ones will work, but I haven't used them. All of them. As a particular one I normally use. How to validate email. Let's try this one. Maybe this one will work. Sorry, that one is not even opening. I need one. I think this is it. Is this one working? Is valid email. This regex email pattern is this. Cause valid email is valid email return a valid email. So this is email pattern, which is this dot test. I think I can customize this and use this. So let me customize this and use it. Where is my, so somewhere here I'll paste this. So what I can do is say remove this, copy all of this. You know, no need to copy, just put it inside here. Yeah. So this should work. This will accept the email to check if the email is valid, and it should return a message, the email in lower cases. No, that's fine. So what I'll do is I'll copy this and come somewhere here and say if not valid, and then passing the email into this. If it's not valid, let me just test that this is working. Error.push, and push a message that says invalid email. So I'll save this and see that my server is running, MongoDB is connected. So I will just enter a wrong email as this and then send it again. Now it crashed because of error again. I always forget that it's errors. It's errors. Save that. See that it's actually running, and send this request again. Exactly. So now we have a regex to validate. So if the user types in something that is not a valid email, some people type something like this and they just put at, because front end it will allow you to put at. If you send it, it will still tell you it's an invalid email. So that's what this does. So what it does is it calls that function which we created. The function is this. It accepts the function. The function accepts an email, run the email through this pattern. Now, if it passes through this pattern, it means that it's a valid email. But if it doesn't pass through these patterns, then it's an invalid email. Now, don't struggle or don't worry yourself about understanding what's going on here. You don't need to, and you also don't need to cram this. You can actually find anyone online and use it. So that's that. Okay, let me check where. Okay, I forgot to write else, but it still worked. So I forgot to write else. Else if not. So this is the validation. This is like a standard validation. And if you run it through here and send this request, it says the email is invalid. Now if we try to enter a valid email, an email example rather, gmail.com, and send. Now the request is hanging. So this hanging means that this validation has passed through. Everything here has been validated and it is correct. So how do you tell the request to proceed to next? Because now the request is still hanging because the middleware has not given it the approval to go. So how do you tell it to proceed to the next? Now this is how you do it. While you are accepting the response, you are also accepting, you are taking also the next. So at the end of the middleware, you invoke the next function like this. So this next function is like a command that says proceed to the next phase. So that is what this thing does here. So if I save it, I've saved it now. And if I send this request down, you see that it went through and came back successful. So this means it passed through the validation. The validation validated everything and everything is correct. And then it called next, which is to proceed to the next, which is this part. And then on this part, it is returning. So what I can say is add a message that says successful on API to be sure that this is where the message is coming from. So if I send this request again, now it says successful on API. So ladies and gentlemen, that is how you build a simple validation. Now it is very important that for everything you validate. So any question so far? Any question? This is premium content. The next. All right. So what I'll do is I will remove this next here. And I will also remove it here. So I will save this request. And then maybe make a mistake here. Like this. And send it. Okay. This is proceeding. I want to see that it's giving me cancel. I want to see that it's giving me an error. So this is proceeding. So cancel this and send. It says invalid email. So the validation is working. Invalid email is working. Now the validation is working. So but if we entered correct data, which is this, and you send it, now the validation has finished. Everything is doing and everything is correct. But it needs to tell this request to proceed to the next phase. That's where the next comes in. So, exactly. Next would tell this request to proceed to the next phase if you have reached the end. So this means that it has run this line. This line is correct. It has run this line. This line is correct. It did this line. It did this line. It did this line. So it has done. This is only going to run when there is an error, when it's greater than 0. So it has reached here. It has moved from the top to the bottom and has reached here. So how do you tell it to proceed to the next? The first thing to do is accept the next function here. While you accept the request, you accept the next function, and then down here you invoke the next function like this. So if you invoke it like this, you've automatically asked it to proceed to the next. So all I did was to accept the next function the same way we're accepting the request and the response, and then we invoke the next function here. Without this next function invoked here, the request will not proceed to the next phase. So if I send this request down, it proceeded to the next phase. So the question is, why is the next coming before the validate email? Now, the validate email is just a random function. Now, you can use this validate function anywhere, in so many places. That is why, for me, I like keeping it in a separate function. For me, I don't know about other developers, but for me, I like keeping it in a separate function because you can use the email in so many places. So before you use an email, you want to validate that that email is correct. For example, you know that we have an endpoint that will send an email to the user's email. So if you are going to send the user an email, before you send that email, you need to validate that that email is actually correct so that your function, your API will not fail because it's a wrong email. Then you need to call this is valid email again. So you need to call this again and then pass in that email like that. So here we are validating email, which is why we are calling the function. So we are just referencing the function and passing in an email. So anywhere you want to use an email, you should validate whether that email you want to use is correct or is valid. So that is why I like putting this in a function, and I will always export it so that it can be used anywhere else. It doesn't have to be used only on this file. It can be used anywhere else. Anytime you want to send an email, you validate that the email is correct before you send the email. Anytime you want to save or do anything with email, you validate the email before you send it. So that's why it's coming. It's not coming before that for any reason, but because I put it in a separate function and it can be used anywhere. That's why I put it down here. No, we did not post to the database. The API is not doing anything. The API is just sending back a response. It's just a dummy API. It's just sending back a response. It's not posting to any database. What we are just doing is to verify that the function, the request passed through this middleware. That's what we are testing. We want to test that it passed through this middleware before reaching here. So we want, that's why we set a message here to tell us when it has reached here. So this message will tell us that, okay, it has reached here, but it passed through the middleware. Now, if I remove this next function and then send this request again, now the request is hanging. So this means that it has actually reached the middleware that has been validated. It passed the validation, but the middleware has not given it the go-ahead order to enter the API function. So that is why it is hanging. But to do that, you call next. When you call next, it will then give it that go-ahead to proceed to the next API function, which is this. So that's what we're doing. Exactly. So next is going to pass it that certificate to proceed to the next. Next is the keyword. Next is the keyword. So, but let's try. I have not tried before, but let's try. If I put something else here, like say EEE, and then I call EEE here, and then save it. So if I send this request, it still went ahead. So that means that next is the third thing that should be accepted here. So the name must not be next, but is the third thing that should be accepted here. But we like accepting it as next so that you know that that's the point where you are giving it the command to proceed to next, like that. So any question on validation? So with this validation, this is validation for only one. So you should be able to validate everything here. Validate all of this phone number. So this means that I don't have to do validation here. I can remove this validation here and create a middleware that will handle validations for these things. and then put that validation function in the middle here, like that. So you should be able to do that. You should be able to validate that. You should also be able to validate the login without validating it here. You should be able to validate the login too. And also, when they are trying to reset their password, you should be able to validate the email too. And also, when they are trying to reset their password, you should be able to validate their password. So that's validation for simple payload. And I want to believe you understand that. Any question? All right. So that's all. Next, we are going to talk about how to validate the user token and how to use the token. That's the next type of validation I will also show you. So I've shown you how to validate the payload. So with this validation, you can validate any payload like that, anything that has to do with payload. Next validation will be the authorization, the token, how to make sure that the user is currently logged in, because as a backend developer, you need to make sure that the person who is actually trying to view or make requests is logged in. They have a token, and the token has not expired also. And the token is also a valid token. So you should be able to validate the token, that it has not expired, it is valid, and they actually have a token. The code, all right, I will just post the code. I always forget to delete. If I go to my VS Code, if I go to my GitHub, where's my GitHub? I'm definitely sure I will see up to 10 or 20. I'm not just up to 20, but I will see so many repos that are not the repos that I need. And the reason why I'm actually leaving them is because I've not really had any need. So here I have backend 3, I have CRUD, I have backend 3, backend 2, backend 1, any name. If somebody just comes to my backend, this is even dumb. JavaScript 4, JavaScript 2, variables, JavaScript. Okay, this is a project, and I have request. Imagine. So if somebody comes to my backend, they say, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll still post it. I'll make a time to delete these old ones. So I'll call this auth2. auth2 like this. Yeah, auth2. Or remove that, put it here, auth2. So I make it public and create load an existing file. Open this. Where is it? It's gonna be inside auth. Copy this, control, copy this, copy this, copy this, copy this, and then push. Oh my god, sorry. Here, 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 here. I am forgetting what I want to do. It's okay. Let's try again. Let's try again. Trying to hold shift, control, and drag at the same time. Yeah. Wait. I dragged it now. What happened? Yeah. So it's not uploading. I'm trying to upload it. I don't know if it's my network or, you know what, let me refresh. Okay, I'll try again. Okay, now it's uploading. All right. So it's done uploading. Save that. And it's saved here. The most important thing here is the middleware. So you have the middleware. Then I can actually remove this. So I can actually add it here. No, not here. I think in the general group. I'll drop it in the general group. All right. How do you delete a file from GitHub? Okay, now let's assume I want to delete a file from my own account. I'll click on repository, find the repository you want to delete. For example, I want to delete this backend 2. I will click on it. When I click on it, it's going to ask, I will see settings. I'll go to settings here, click on settings, scroll down to the ending part. So the ending part here will say delete this repository. I will click to delete. It will ask me, do you want to delete it? I'll say yes, I want to delete it. It will ask me again. So it asked me 2 times, do you know the effect? I say, yes, I understand. It will ask me the 3rd time that I should copy this or type in this thing. So I will type it in here and then I'll click delete. To ask me for my authentication code. So for me, I set authentication code. So that's why it's asking me for authentication code. But if you didn't set authentication code, it will not ask you. So let me type in my authentication 8, where is it now? 78543. So it will authenticate and it has deleted. So that's once. If I also want to delete this backend 3, wait to I don't know the back. Yeah, all of them backend they are for you people. So I'll also delete this one too. I will click on it. This is the repo I want to delete. If I click on settings, I'll scroll down to the bottom, click on delete this. To ask me, do you want to delete? Yes. Do you understand? Yes. Then copy this name and put it there. I will copy it and I'll paste it here and I'll say delete. And it has deleted that one. I can come again to delete this CRUD. I'll click on it. If I click on it, I'll click on settings, then scroll down to the ending part, click delete this repo. Yes, I want to delete. Yes, I understand. Then I'll copy this thing from here and paste it here and delete. So that has been deleted. You see, so you can delete this backend 3 too. Yeah, delete backend 3, click on settings, scroll down, click delete this repo. I want to delete, I understand, copy these things, then paste it here and delete. So I can scroll down to this one. This one is very bad. Let me delete this. This anything is very bad. So I click on settings and scroll down, delete this repo. Yes, I understand. Yes, I want to delete and delete it. Copy, paste it and delete. So I want to believe you understand how to delete now. So do we have any question in the apps? If we don't have a question so that we can end the class, do we have any question? I've not even deleted all of them. There are still so many of them here. Let me delete this backend. Now these ones have bad names. Let me delete the ones that have bad names first. Go to settings, scroll down, delete this repo. I want to delete, I understand. Then I'll copy this and paste it here and delete. Yeah, there are some names that doesn't look like test also. The name doesn't look nice. The moment somebody sees that name, they know that, oh, this is not good. This is not good. Delete it. I want to delete. I understand. And delete it. Command V and delete. So is there any other one that looks bad? None looks bad. DOM, JavaScript through Java. You know what? Delete this one. I'll come back for the rest. But let me just end with this last one. Scroll down, delete this repo. I want to delete. I understand. copy this and paste it here and delete. So it's done. So in the absence of any questions, you can drop a thumbs up so that we end the class. In the absence of any question, drop a thumbs up so that we end this class. See you again tomorrow. All right. Thank you. We'll continue where we stopped, especially the authentication for tokens tomorrow, especially that, or maybe the MVC, any of them. We'll continue from there. So let's see that we round up everything about authentication and validation, possibly give you your first project, and then before we'll wait for the final project. All right, bye. And I think it's here. Leave this end video chat.